And no offense, I'm an idiot. 99% of us in this field are idiots.
Yeah, buddy. Lightweight, baby!
What's up, guys? I'm Josh and I Lift Things, and today I am here to talk about regional hypertrophy. Regional hypertrophy is essentially the non-uniform development of muscle tissue. When you think about how you build muscle, you probably imagine that it happens everywhere at once equally. This isn't really the case, and if we think about it biologically, why would it be? The human body is amazing and it's a machine, but it does not act as a perfect machine. For a quick example of regional hypertrophy, imagine you grew your calf but only closer to your ankle than your knee. Maybe it got thicker deep down, but closer to the skin more superficially, it did not. That is regional hypertrophy, the non-uniform growth of muscle. For instance, here we have the regional hypertrophy, the inhomogeneous muscle growth, a systematic review. So they searched two different databases, PubMed and Scopus. From the 14 studies included, 13 found that the anatomical cross-sectional area of some regions of a muscle increased to a greater degree than others. Some studies found increases in the distal region, others reported increases in the middle region, and some found differences between regions but did not report which increased the most. Hypertrophy between and within muscle heads is not homogeneous, confirming that regional hypertrophy actually happens in the quadriceps, triceps, and biceps. Here's one: non-uniform excitation of pectoralis major induced by changes in bench press inclination leads to uneven variations in the cross-sectional area measured by panoramic ultrasonography. Essentially, they had people performing flat bench press and then other people performing incline bench press. This resulted in people with the incline bench press having greater development of the clavicular head of their pec major. You can go see my lower chest video for a super big deep dive on chest anatomy and the mechanics of it all, but this makes complete sense. Here's another one: non-uniform response of skeletal muscle to heavy resistance training. Can bodybuilders induce regional muscle hypertrophy? Skeletal muscle is heterogeneous tissue that exhibits numerous inter- and intramuscular differences, i.e. architecture, fiber composition, and muscle function. An individual muscle cannot be simplistically described as a compilation of muscle fibers that span from origin to insertion. In fact, there are unique differences within a single muscle and within single muscle fibers with respect to fiber size and protein composition. Electromyographic data indicate that there is selective recruitment of different regions of a muscle that can be altered depending on the type of exercise performed. Longitudinal resistance training studies also demonstrate that individual muscles as well as groups of synergistic muscles adapt in a regional specific manner. The author speculates that no single exercise can maximize the hypertrophic response of all regions of a particular muscle. Thus, for maximal hypertrophy of an entire muscle, athletes, particularly bodybuilders, are justified in incorporating various exercises that purportedly stimulate growth in a regional specific manner. Here's another study: effective strength training on regional hypertrophy of the elbow flexor muscles. You can see here, the magnetic resonance images verify the presence of significant and similar hypertrophy in the distal, medial, and proximal portions of the elbow flexor muscles. Conclusions: muscle hypertrophy may be assessed using only the medial CSA. We should not expect different degrees of hypertrophy among the regions of the elbow flexor muscles. Another one: association between regional differences in muscle activation in one session of resistance exercise and in muscle hypertrophy after resistance training. So the activated area of the triceps brachii induced by one session of the exercise was found to be significantly lower in the distal region than the middle and proximal. Similarly, the relative increase in muscle cross-sectional area after the 12 weeks of training intervention was significantly less in the distal region compared to the middle and proximal. The results suggest that the regional difference in muscle hypertrophy after chronic resistance training is attributable to the regional difference in muscle activation during the exercise. So we have some studies saying that there is regional hypertrophy differences, specifically in places that have multiple heads that have multiple functions. This makes complete sense. Of course, the quads would experience some form of regional hypertrophy. For instance, the rectus femoris is not going to be fully active unless you are in some form of hip extension. So, of course, some movements would train that better than other movements would. For the upper and lower chest, of course, an inclined bench works the upper chest more. This has just been widely accepted for decades. Sure, you may argue that some people think the lower chest is still worth training, but those people are weird. The triceps had significant growth in places, but we've kind of known that for the triceps to maximally train all three heads, you should be doing some overhead work, some push down work, and then just whatever presses you want to perform. The reason I am making this video is because I recently made a video on the lats and how you cannot isolate the upper or lower portions of it. And also just to explain that breaking down anything as upper and lower is probably a fool's errand. But when you start to mention regional hypertrophy and people start to do some of their own research, they may take away some conclusions that are not so conclusive. It seems to be that you can't necessarily predict regional hypertrophy. And some studies show that it doesn't happen at all in certain muscle groups, even those with multiple heads, such as the biceps. Other studies claim that they can. This is kind of the issue. We are left with a whole lot of uncertainty. Uncertainty does not sell. And some people get kind of a Dunning-Kruger effect going on to where they think they are far better at interpreting studies than they really are. I will be the first to admit, I'm an idiot. I default my views to people who know much more than me and people that I respect and have put out trustworthy products and information for a long time. They have a solid track record. Other people decide to kind of try to manipulate something because they think that they are better than you or smarter than you. And then they make in this pretty little 60-second short video that then you share to all of your buddies, and now you're all a bunch of crackheads espousing just completely false or at least insanely warped views. Regional hypertrophy is super interesting, and is best described as a phenomenon. We do not know enough about it yet. We probably can't predict when it's going to occur, at least when we're talking about within one single muscle belly. It's much easier to predict when you're worrying about multiple heads. So, are all of my videos wrong where you can experience regional hypertrophy in the long head and short head of the bicep, or maybe the upper and lower lat? Maybe, but there is no good evidence that that is the case. What we need is long-term longitudinal studies using some type of ultrasound or magnetic resonance imaging to actually figure out the changes in muscle size, using a lot of people, using many different types of exercises, and then controlling for stuff like diet and recovery, genetics, and all these other complicated things. And we're probably never going to get that study. So I think what the most practical solution for most people is, train how you want to. Just don't then lie about why it's better than someone else's training. If you like doing a decline bench press, do a decline bench press. But if you start concocting up lies about the fucking costal head is going to be going nuts, like, don't do that. If you like really wide grip curls, do them. But don't start telling people about, well, in a cadaver study, they literally chopped off a corpse's fucking arm and hooked it up to a pendulum and then had a bunch of wires connected to it to pull it in different directions. And when that happened, the tendon happened to have a little bit more force on it in this position. Don't do that. If you want to do some super low pulls for your lower lats and then fucking pull downs for your upper lats, do whatever you want. Just make sure if someone asks you why you're doing it, that you preface it with, I enjoy it. I think maybe this is happening, but I'm not sure. Stop having insane confidence and speaking with such conviction when you are an idiot. And no offense, I'm an idiot. 99% of us in this field are idiots. We are mentally ill people that go to a gym and pick some shit up and then put it down, right? That's fine. That's cool. We're not fucking geniuses. And guys, that is the video. Super quick one. Just hoping to wrap up some of my final thoughts on this EMG series I've been putting out as of late. The upper lower chest, the short head, long head bicep, the back thickness versus back width, the lat size, the leg press foot stance. There's a couple more that may crop up every now and again, but I think I've covered the massive ones that I really want to touch on that seem the most prevalent, or at least the most commonly asked to me. This video serves as kind of a nightcap to all of them, to where we just don't know. Regional hypertrophy seems to exist. It doesn't seem like we can predict it or maybe even influence all that much when we're talking about single-headed muscle bellies. If it's a muscle with multiple different heads with different functions between each head, then yeah, we can probably control it in some way. I also had someone ask me why I only show abstracts whenever I'm showing a paper off. I don't only show abstracts, it's whatever appears on like Google Scholar or an initial Google search for me. If the paper is a paid product, I don't want to put it out for free. One, I don't know how legal that is, but I also don't think it's all that ethical. But I always say the paper's name and often even the authors, or you can see them on screen. Go and email the authors and they will typically send you the paper for free if you want to check out the full thing. And like I said, there's other ways to try to find the full paper, which you can easily do. And for most papers I reference, that is what I do. But I'm not going to be showing that off unless it's insanely available or even put out for free through Google Scholar or through like the first Google search if you were to type that study in. Just trying not to be a fucking thief. You know what I mean? Have some morals, people. And guys, that is the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this style of content, like, share, comment, I don't care. If you really like it, follow all these socials. I don't care. I'm gonna neg you guys into liking it. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. And have a great day.